Stop scrolling. If you receive Social Security, or ever will, what I'm about to tell you could mean thousands of dollars more in your pocket starting right now. There's an internal Social Security policy most Americans have never heard of. It's called EM-26002, and it's quietly changing how benefits are calculated, how back pay is issued, and who finally gets the money they were denied for years. Teachers, firefighters, police officers, widows, disabled workers, retirees. Some people have already received five-figure payments, and others still don't even know they're eligible. If you don't watch this until the end, you could miss money that is legally yours. And once you understand what's happening, you'll never look at your Social Security check the same way again. Before you go any further, let me say this. This channel is for you, not for politicians, not for Wall Street, not for people who don't rely on these benefits. This channel exists for everyday Americans who worked hard, paid in, and deserve to get every dollar they're owed without confusion, fear, or government jargon. I break these changes down plain and simple, so you don't get left behind while the rules keep changing. So let's start from the very beginning and let's talk about what is going on with Social Security right now under the Trump administration. The Social Security Administration, which is the government agency that manages your benefits, has been issuing a series of new directives, policy updates, and emergency guidance messages that are changing how benefits are calculated, distributed, and protected. One of those key internal policy communications is what's being referred to as EM-26002. Now, when people hear the phrase emergency message, they might think something has gone wrong or there's some kind of crisis, but that's not what this means at all. In the Social Security system, an emergency message, or EM for short, is simply an internal instruction sent to SSA employees telling them how to handle a specific policy change or new rule. Think of it like a memo from the boss to the workers telling them, here is how we are going to do things differently, starting today. And EM-26002 is one of those memos that is directly connected to benefit increases and improvements that are happening right now. So what does this all actually mean for you? Well, let's walk through the big picture first, and then we are going to get into the specific details that matter most to regular, everyday Americans who are counting on their Social Security checks every month. The first and most important thing you need to understand is that the Trump administration has been aggressively pushing to increase Social Security benefits for certain groups of Americans who were, quite frankly, getting shortchanged for years. We are talking about retired workers, people with disabilities, surviving spouses, and public servants like teachers, firefighters, and police officers who dedicated their entire careers to serving their communities. For a long time, many of these Americans were receiving less in Social Security benefits than they were actually entitled to. Not because of anything they did wrong, but because of two old rules buried inside the Social Security system that were quietly reducing their checks. Those two rules were called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Sounds like complicated government language, right? Let's break it down so it actually makes sense. The windfall elimination provision, let's just call it the WEP, was a rule that reduced Social Security benefits for workers who spent part of their career in a job that didn't pay in to Social Security. For example, if you worked as a public school teacher in a state where teachers don't pay Social Security taxes, and then you also worked another job where you did pay Social Security taxes, the WEP would actually cut your Social Security benefit. The government used a formula that made it look like you had earned less over your lifetime than you actually had, and it punished you for it. Millions of teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other government workers across the country were affected by this rule and were receiving smaller checks as a result. The government pension offset, or GO, was a similar rule, but it hit surviving spouses the hardest. If you were receiving a pension from a government job that didn't pay into Social Security and your spouse passed away, the GO would reduce or even completely eliminate the Social Security survivor benefit you were supposed to receive. This left a lot of widows and widowers in a very difficult financial position, often through no fault of their own. They had planned for their retirement expecting to receive that survivor benefit, and then it was taken away from them because of a policy most of them didn't even know existed until it was too late. Now, here is the good news, and this is really big. On January 5th, 2025, Congress passed and President Biden signed into law what is called the Social Security Fairness Act. This law officially eliminated both the WEP and the GO. Gone, done, over. That means all those millions of Americans who are being shortchanged are now entitled to their full benefits. But here's where the Trump administration comes in, and this is where things get really important for people watching right now. Passing the law was just the first step. Somebody had to actually go in and fix all of those benefit records, recalculate all of those payments, and send out all of that money. And the Social Security Administration under the Trump administration did exactly that. And they did it faster than almost anyone expected. The original estimate from the SSA was that it could take a year or more to process all of these changes. There were over 3 million beneficiaries whose records needed to be updated. That is an enormous amount of work. But the SSA automated much of the process, used new technology, and got it done in just a few months. By mid-2025, the Social Security Administration had sent out over $17 billion in retroactive payments to more than 3 million people. Let that number sink in for a moment. $17 billion going directly to American workers and retirees who had been underpaid for years. And on top of those one-time lump sum payments covering the money they were owed going back to January 2024, these beneficiaries also started receiving permanently higher monthly benefit checks beginning in April 2025. So, if you are one of those public servants, a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, a government employee, and you have not yet seen an increase in your monthly Social Security payment, you need to contact the Social Security Administration right away because this money is yours and it is waiting for you. Now let's talk about another enormous change that happened in 2025 that is going to save a tremendous amount of money for millions of American seniors. And this one is directly connected to the broader policy direction that EM-26002 and similar directives are helping to implement. We are talking about taxes on Social Security benefits. This is something that has bothered seniors for decades. A lot of people don't even realize that their Social Security benefits can be taxed by the federal government. When you hear politicians say, "You paid into Social Security your whole life, it's your money." What they often don't mention is that depending on how much other income you have, you could owe federal income taxes on up to 85% of your Social Security benefits. That has been the law for a long time, and because the income thresholds that trigger that taxation were set back in 1983 and 1993 and were never adjusted for inflation, more and more seniors have been getting pulled into the taxable category over the years, even though their real purchasing power hasn't changed that much. President Trump made eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits one of his signature campaign promises, and his administration took a major step toward that goal when the One Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law on July 4th, 2025. Now, a full elimination of Social Security taxes would have required different legislation. The Senate rules around budget reconciliation made a complete repeal complicated. But the One Big Beautiful Bill delivered something very significant for seniors. Starting with the 2025 tax year and running through 2028, Americans who are 65 years old or older are getting an enhanced standard deduction of up to $6,000 per person. That means if you are a single senior, you can deduct an additional $6,000 from your taxable income. If you are married and both you and your spouse are 65 or older, you can deduct an additional $12,000. This is on top of the standard deduction that everyone already gets. and it is on top of the extra deduction that seniors have always received. When you add all of these deductions together, a huge portion of the Social Security income that seniors were previously being taxed on is now sheltered from federal income taxes entirely. To put it in plain terms, if you are a senior living on Social Security and some modest savings, there is a very good chance that your federal tax bill just went down significantly or may have gone to zero. This is real money back in your pocket. Some estimates suggest that for a typical retired couple relying primarily on Social Security, this change could save them anywhere from several hundred to several thousand per year in federal taxes, depending on their total income. That is money you can use to pay for groceries, prescription medications, utilities, or just about anything else you need. And for seniors who are living on tight fixed incomes, that kind of savings can make a meaningful difference in their day-to-day quality of life. Now, let's talk about your monthly Social Security check itself and what is happening to the actual dollar amount you receive. Every year, Social Security benefits are adjusted through something called the Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA. This is basically an automatic raise designed to help your benefits keep up with inflation because prices go up over time, and the government wants your check to keep pace so you don't lose purchasing power. The COLA for 2026 was announced in October 2025, and it came in at 2.8%. That means if your monthly Social Security check was $1,000, it is now $1,028. If your check was $2,000, it is now $2,056. That 2.8% increase might not sound dramatic, but it adds up to real money over the course of a year. And it has now been 5 straight years in a row where the COLA increase was at least 2.5%. You would have to go all the way back to the late 1980s and early 1990s to find the last time that happened. That stretch of consistent raises is providing meaningful protection for seniors against the inflation that has been hitting everyone hard over the past few years. It is also worth mentioning something important about how the current administration is approaching the management and operation of the Social Security Administration itself, because this affects your experience as a beneficiary in very practical ways. Under Commissioner Frank Bisignano, who was confirmed and took charge of the SSA in May 2025, the agency has been going through what can best be described as a digital transformation. The SSA website and the online account system called My Social Security used to be plagued with problems. The website was reportedly down for 29 hours a week at some points, which meant that if you needed to check your benefit status, update your information, or manage your account, you were just out of luck during those downtime windows. That has changed significantly. The agency has invested in making the system available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in the first few weeks after the improvements were rolled out, over 500,000 transactions were completed through the online system. That is a massive improvement in access and convenience for beneficiaries. At the same time, the administration has implemented new identity verification rules that went into effect in April 2025. Starting on April 14, 2025, you can no longer make certain account changes or complete new Social Security applications entirely over the phone. In most circumstances, if you want to change your direct deposit information or complete a new retirement benefit application, you now need to either use your online My Social Security account or visit a local Social Security field office in person with your ID. The administration says this is about preventing fraud and protecting your benefits, making sure that nobody can call in and pretend to be you and redirect your Social Security payments somewhere else. That is a real and serious concern, and the new rules are designed to protect you. However, it does mean that if you are not comfortable with computers, or if you have trouble getting to a local office, you may need to ask a family member or trusted person to help you navigate these new requirements. One important thing to know If you are applying for Social Security disability benefits, Medicare, or Supplemental Security Income, SSI, the phone application option is still available to you. You can complete those applications entirely over the phone if going online or visiting an office is not possible for you. So the changes to phone service do not affect everyone equally, and the most vulnerable beneficiaries have been given some continued flexibility. Let's also talk about what is happening with Social Security disability benefits specifically, because there are some very encouraging news here as well. For years, people applying for disability benefits have faced an agonizing wait. The backlog of pending initial disability claims had swelled to over 1.2 million cases at its worst. That is more than 1 million Americans waiting to find out whether they are going to receive the benefits they need to survive. Under the current administration, that backlog has been reduced to approximately 940,000 cases, which represents a reduction of about 25%. A 25% reduction in the backlog means hundreds of thousands of Americans who are waiting for a disability determination are going to get their answer faster. For people who are sick, injured, or disabled and cannot work, every month of waiting is a month of financial stress and uncertainty. These improvements in processing times are making a real difference in real people's lives. There is also good news specifically for people who are already receiving disability benefits and are trying to work. The Social Security system has something called the Substantial Gainful Activity Threshold, which is the maximum amount of money you can earn from work without having your disability benefits cut off. For 2025, non-blind disability recipients can earn up to $1,620 per month in wages without losing their benefits. That number goes up each year, and it gives people with disabilities the ability to try to re-enter the workforce without immediately losing the safety net they depend on. This is an important feature of the system that a lot of beneficiaries are not fully aware of. Now, let's circle back to something very important that we want every single person watching this video to understand, because this is where EM-26002 and similar administrative directives come into play in the most direct way. These emergency messages and policy updates from the SSA are essentially the mechanism by which all of these benefit changes actually get implemented at the ground level. When Congress passes a law or when the president signs a new bill, that does not automatically mean your check changes tomorrow. It means the SSA has to go through an internal process of updating their systems, retraining their staff, and issuing new guidance so that everyone in the agency is handling your case according to the new rules. Emergency messages like EM-26002 are part of that process. They are the instructions that tell SSA workers, here is how you need to handle benefit calculations. Here is how you process these new applications. Here is what you do when someone calls in about a change to their payment. When these messages are issued correctly and followed properly, the result is that you, the beneficiary, receive your benefits accurately and on time, with all of the increases and improvements that the law and the administration have promised. This is why it is so important for you to stay informed, to check your benefit amounts regularly, and to reach out to the SSA if you think something is not right. If you believe you should be getting more money based on the changes we have described, whether that is because of the Social Security Fairness Act, the new tax deductions, or the COLA increase, and you are not seeing that reflected in your payments, do not just assume everything is fine. Contact the Social Security Administration directly. You can call them, you can go online to the SSA website at ssa.gov, or you can visit your local Social Security field office. It is your right to ask questions about your benefits and to make sure you are receiving everything you are entitled to. And if you have a family member or a friend, a parent, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, a neighbor who is receiving Social Security benefits and who may not be aware of all these changes, please share this information with them. A lot of seniors are not on social media or YouTube, and they may not have heard about any of this. You could be the person who lets them know that they are owed back payments, that their monthly check should be higher, or that they could save significant money on their taxes this year. That kind of information is genuinely valuable, and sharing it is one of the most helpful things you can do for the people you care about. To wrap everything up and make sure it is all crystal clear, what we are seeing right now with Social Security is a significant period of change and improvement driven by a combination of new laws and strong administrative action. Over $17 billion in back payments have already gone out to more than 3 million Americans who were previously shortchanged. Monthly benefits have been permanently increased for public servants, teachers, firefighters, and police officers who had their checks reduced by the old WP and GO rules. Seniors 65 and older are getting a new enhanced tax deduction that could save them thousands of dollars per year on their federal taxes. The 2026 COLA brought a 2.8% 8% increase to monthly checks, marking 5 straight years of meaningful raises. The disability claims backlog has been cut by 25%, and the SSA's online systems are more reliable and accessible than they have been in years. All of these changes are real. They are documented, they are happening right now. And through internal administrative guidance like EM-26002, the Social Security Administration is working to make sure that all of these improvements are being implemented correctly and that every eligible American is receiving the benefits they worked their whole lives to earn. So make sure you know what you are owed. Make sure your payments are correct. Make sure you are taking advantage of every benefit improvement and tax savings that you qualify for. And if you are not sure where to start, go to ssa.gov, create or log in to your My Social Security account, and review your benefit statement. That one simple step could reveal whether there is more money waiting for you than you realized. Thank you for watching, and please make sure to share this video with anyone you know who receives Social Security benefits. This information could make a real difference in someone's financial life, and that is exactly why we made it. This channel exists for everyday Americans who worked hard, paid in, and deserve to get every dollar they're owed without confusion, fear, or government jargon. I break these changes down plain and simple so you don't get left behind while the rules keep changing.